Thank you for tuning in to the GSMC Dead Ball Sports Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. We have a great show for you today. We will be covering the Detroit Lions. They just won. They beat the Green Bay Packers, walk-off field goal. We'll discuss Bill Belichick speaking to UNC in regards to their head coaching job. We'll also discuss the Kansas City Chiefs and whether or not they're still the team to beat in the AFC. We'll discuss the Club World Cup, the FIFA Club World Cup. They had their draw today, and we'll discuss that. And then stick around for the end of the show where I'll be giving you my reaction to or my thoughts on who is going to win the NFC South, an unpredictable division. They are very tight between two teams that are 6-6. Before we start off, if you have a question during the show, we want to hear your input. Is a big part of what makes the show successful, and we thrive on your energies and insights. Whether it's a quick comment or thoughtful question, or an opinion you just have to share, please don't hesitate to drop it in the chat. And if you want to make absolutely sure your message stands out and gets featured on the show, there's an easy way to do that. Just use the super chat button at the bottom of the chat box to send in your super chat. This guarantees that your super chat gets read on the air, and it's also a fantastic way to support our channel. We really rely on your support to keep bringing you the sports content you love, and we appreciate every bit of it. So go ahead, just let us know what you're thinking anytime that you want, and hit that super chat button, and let's keep the show as interactive and exciting as possible. And if you prefer, you always have that method where you can go to the gsmcpodcast.net to tip, donate, or leave a comment or question there. We couldn't do what we do without your amazing support, and we're so thankful to have you as part of our community. We do have to start off though with the Lions. They hit a walk-off winning field goal to get past Green Bay Packers in a very, very, very good football game. I'm not the biggest fan of these Thursday night football games because I just think the quality of football drops, and just overall in the excitingness of the game and all that drops off. But this one was a great one, and it was a back and forth. I thought Detroit looked comfortable early, but Green Bay with a very solid third quarter were able to get more and back in the game through getting an interception on Goff and playing and Jordan Love turning it on in that second half. I thought early in this game he struggled, and honestly that first quarter was almost an extension of what we saw from the Packers offense against this Detroit Lions defense that we saw in the first game around. Just being able to struggle to get any sort of production. Production, the Packers were struggling. And then there was the sorry, I'm having technical difficulties. I have to be something that I also was discussing. Christian Watson, he's not that good, and they had an over reliance on him his rookie season. And yes, he led this game with 4 receptions for 114 yards, but he made some mistakes early on in the ball game, to say the least. He did have 4 receptions for 114 yards. He had that one deep reception, but there's drops. He has a drop issue. He's either dropping the ball or he's fumbling the ball, and and that was a problem early on. The camera kept panning to him too, and that made it funny. But yeah, Packers, their offense struggled to get some production in that first quarter, but they were able to turn it on, and then it became a back and forth ball game. We saw some good offense, some good efficient offense being played on both sides. I thought overall it was a really good football game between two really good teams, and it really came down to who had the ball at the end was gonna win. And the Lions being the Lions. By the way, you get the good and bad with Dan Campbell with his ways. There's positives and negatives, and we saw both of that in this ball game. There was a 4th and 1 deep in their own territory. They were in their own 30. Dan Campbell decides to go for it. They end up getting stopped. It gives the Packers in prime position at the 30-yard line to go in and get some points. And then which they ended up scoring a touchdown actually to make it 21. And then Green Bay, Detroit, they also had another opportunity to go for it later in the ball game with about 40 seconds left. It was a 4th and 1 where if they got the first down, they essentially won the game, and they did. And that's and they also had a 4th down at the end of the half, a 4th and 1 that they scored a touchdown on to make it 17-7. So you get the good and the bad, and we saw some of the good and some of the bad. But it ended up the good prevailing because that 4th down that they go for it at the end of the game essentially allowed them to bleed off the entire clock. And I have to be honest, I didn't really understand that one. I have to be honest. I didn't understand going for it, but maybe I'm just living in, I have an old style of thinking, but you already have Green Bay in such a vulnerable position there. I understand wanting the knockout blow and not even wanting to give Jordan Love a chance because you know what Jordan Love can do. He is a good quarterback, and he's a quarterback that you should respect in that situation. Don't get me wrong. A lot of times when people make these decisions, in terms of not wanting to put the ball back in that other quarterback's hand. And, Jordan Love, I think he's a good enough quarterback where, if you could win it with the offense, you're going to try to win it with the offense. Yes, I understand that. But I didn't think, and look, this is all, that ended up working out for Detroit. They ended up getting the first down, so you're probably sitting here thinking I'm an idiot for even questioning the decision, but I didn't think Detroit had much to gain from that. I thought they had the Packers in a really vulnerable position to win the ball game. I have to say, I don't know what the statistics said, but I don't know what the statistics said. The win probability if you get the first down, yes, it goes to 99.99, obviously, but you're 4th and 3. The Packers is down to 43 seconds left. The Packers, I believe, the Packers didn't have a single timeout. With 42 seconds left, you kick that field goal. There's about 39 seconds left in the game. Up 3, you kick it off back to Green Bay. Even if you kick the field goal, I would still think that the win probability is still about 96% or 95%. It's still a really, really high number. Because you're giving the ball back with about 39 seconds to go with no timeouts to drive, they're probably going to have to go another 40 yards. Let's say it's a touchback from the 20. So for me, I still believe, I didn't believe the risk there was really worth it. The gain was not as much. But at the same time, it was 4th and inches, and it could have gone wrong, That's the remarkable thing about it. It could have gone wrong. Jared Goff on the handoff slips and having to extend on the slip, barely gets the handoff into David Montgomery, or else that's, it's a complete disaster. That's a complete disaster. If Goff is not able to get that handoff off, and he was very fortunate to do so, man, the Packers are sitting pretty because now they get the ball at about the 25-yard line or so, or 23 or 24-yard line or so, with 42 seconds left, and they're having the chance to win the game. And at a worst, they're going to overtime. So, it's a big risk there, but it paid off. But I just didn't think it was worth the reward. But Dan Campbell, he's the gunslinger version of a coach. He's going to go for it. He's the gunslinger version of a coach. They lived and died by those decisions. They died on it in the AFC Championship with a few moments where they went for it and all that. And that's just the deal. It's a big win for Detroit. It's a big win for Detroit as they're battling for that number 1 seed. This is one of their tough games remaining this season. Detroit, they have a big game coming up next week now against Buffalo Bills. That is a game that can potentially decide the number one seed for both sides of the conferences. You have a Detroit team battling for the number one seed in the NFC, and you have a Buffalo's team that's battling for the number one seed in the AFC. That is a huge game between those two games. And then the Lions also have the Bears, the Niners, and the Vikings. So not the most easy schedule for Detroit. But so yeah, it was essential that they got this win here, and now they're looking in good position to get the number one seed, with the game advantage over now game and a half, depending on what we see from the Eagles. I think the Eagles have a difficult game remaining in their schedule as well. I believe they play against Pittsburgh. Yeah, they play against Pittsburgh, and then other than that, you have the Commanders. The Eagles have the Commanders. The Commanders in Washington could be a difficult one for Philadelphia. At Northwest Stadium, as they call the stadium in Landover, Maryland. Now, that can be difficult for Philadelphia. That and Pittsburgh, those are two difficult tests. The rest of them is pretty manageable. Carolina, the Dallas Cowboys, and the New York Giants. Those are all pretty manageable games for the Detroit Lions, for the Philadelphia Eagles. So the number one seed is really up for fight, but I think Detroit is clear favorites, and it's really remarkable what Detroit has been able to do against high level opposition this season. This is a Detroit Lions team that is right now number one. It's remarkable that Detroit Lions is 12-1. I never could imagine that. Detroit Lions being 12-1, and they're a really good 12-1. They are getting past teams that we thought are that are competitors with ease. They beat Packers in both games. They comfortably beat a Colts team battling for playoffs. They destroyed a Jaguars team. They beat a Texans team despite throwing 5 interceptions. They completely destroyed a Titans team. The scoreline against the Vikings looked tight, but I thought Detroit was a far better team in that game. They completely destroyed the Cowboys. They limited that Cardinals offense. They put 42 past Seattle. This is a Lions team that's just so complete, and they've always had a lot of injuries this season. People forget, a lot of teams, when they lose a player like Aiden Hutchinson, a lot of teams can, tend to fall apart when you're losing a player that's important to your defense. But they haven't missed a beat. I mean, they're sitting 12-1. They came into this game shorter hand as well, missing DJ Reader and Nicole. What they've been able to do, I think it's a sentiment to the coaching staff, to Dan Campbell, the culture that they've created within that team is unbelievable, and it's really showing dividends. In my opinion, it's a good show of culture when you're able to suffer injuries, but you also can maintain a consistent level of winning through the team. And I saw a really good comment. The Eagles have had the easiest schedule in 2024. They can win out easier. Key win for Lions. The Eagles have had a ridiculously easy schedule. I agree with that 100%. The Eagles have had a ridiculously easy schedule. And yeah, short break here coming up. When we come back, we will discuss Bill Belichick speaking with UNC about a head coaching job.
I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign. I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign. I wanna be the greatest. Everybody on the fake shit. I look around and feel like everybody is the fakest. I make this every day and I'm impatient, hoping one day I blow up from the basement. Statement, the top is so vacant. I don't hear shit that I think is amazing. Waiting for my day when I'm playing sold out shows for 1,000 faces. Hey, give me that crown, get in my way and to be put down. It ain't your place, all this my town. If I want that shit, then I'll get it right now. I'm losing it, the noose it fits. I'm losing shit, a stupid myth. You choose to live or choose to dip. You choose to fight or lose your grip and lose a gift. I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign. I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind?
Before the break, we discussed the Lions' walk-off field goal to get past the Green Bay Packers. We move on to discuss Bill Belichick speaking with UNC about head coaching job. Man, as a football fan, this hurts my heart a little bit. I am an NFL fan, not a college football fan. And when I see any asset that the NFL has potentially take their talents to college, it really disappoints me, and it really disappoints me. I'm not the biggest fan of that, to say the least, because I just think the NFL is the highest level, and I think Bill Belichick has a lot more he can do. But let's get this straight. Number one, I'm sitting here and acting like this is a done deal. Far from that. He just had initial talks. UNC look, I'm not gonna sit here and act like I'm the biggest college football aficionado. In fact, I don't know much about college football, I have to say. I know general stuff, and it seems like UNC, they fired their head coach, and right now Freddie Kitchens is serving as their interim head coach. Yes, the same Freddie Kitchens that was the interim head coach for the Cleveland Browns when Hugh Jackson Hugh Jackson got fired, and Freddie Kitchens took over, and for that team that season. For the team that season, and I believe he got another stint the following year. I may be wrong, but I think he had a year. Yeah. He was the coach of them in 2019. And he finished 6-10, and then he ended up getting fired, and Stefanski came in. Yeah. So yeah, he was the head coach for the Browns as well. No, he wasn't even the interim. It was Greg Williams was the intern, and then he got the head coaching job that following year. Yeah, okay, that's what it was. But Freddie Kitchens was part of Hugh Jackson's staff. Okay. So yeah, going back, so Bill Belichick, and from what I see about this UNC head coaching football coach search is. Again, I'm not a college football aficionado, but I think it's a little bit of a mess from what it sounds like, in that they've done a lot of initial Zoom interviews with a bunch of candidates, and Bill Belichick was one of the guys that they interviewed. And the interview this week, I think it was virtual. Bill Belichick, he's been out of football this entire season after he left the Patriots following the 2023 season. We know that Belichick, he said himself, or sources have heard from him that he wants to coach again, and it's also sources say he's also open to listen to people at the college and NFL level. This is a Bill Belichick that's done some work in the collegiate level this season. He's, been covering. He's been on Game Day a few times. I think he made some appearances last season as well in College Game Day on ESPN. And, you know, it's not something that's foreign to him or anything. Obviously, he's never coached at that level. Bill Belichick, he never coached at the college level. And maybe he's looking at it. He's done a lot in the NFL, 6 Super Bowls, and that's a really, really hard thing to do. And he's done a lot in the NFL game. Maybe he wants to try to translate that success at the college level. Maybe he wants that opportunity to be able to coach at that college level, because it's an experience. It's a different experience coaching younger men and, you know, molding young lives and all that. And maybe he wants to be on that side of things. And maybe he sees it as the stepping stone for him to retirement, to coach at a college level, where the pressure is a little bit less and it's more about a program building, and he'll be able to have more control of just everything going on than with the NFL team. And that's the only reason why I believe he would go the college route. Cause look, again, I am an NFL fan. I believe that's the best football. I believe that's just the best league and more fun to watch and everything. I'm really not a college football fan. I'm just being 100% straight with you. It can get exciting, you know. The playoffs is cool here and there. I'll probably tune in if I'm not doing anything. But the NFL, that's big bucks. And he has an opportunity in the NFL level to continue his legacy. And I think he has it in him. Even, look, the Patriots were a disaster, but a lot of it was not because, or I'm talking about the later years, but a lot of it was because of Bill Belichick, the GM, the player building, not him as a coach. I still think as a coach, he gave them chances to win games they had no business being in. I mean, the team that he took to the playoffs with Mac Jones, that was not a playoff-worthy team. That is not a playoff-worthy team. I still think he's a great head coach and a great X's and O and tactician of that. The players were just not good enough at New England at the end of his reign. They were just not good enough. I think I think if he gets an opportunity to coach a team like the Bears with that quality on that team, the offensive weapons of Keenan Allen and Romeo Odunze and having Caleb Williams at the wheel, DJ Moore is still there. You have DeAndre Swift. You have a very, very good defense as well that Bill Belichick will be able to improve with his defensive mind as well. I think it's clear. I mean, he says he's open to listen to people at the college and NFL level. So for me, I don't even understand why he's willing to hear people at the college level. Because if he still has a sight set on, the only way it makes sense why Bill Belichick would go down to college if he just wants to do that experience, if that's just on his mind. But the fact that he's willing to listen to offers from the college and NFL level still seems like part of him wants to coach in the NFL still. And if that's the case, why even allow college to be an opportunity when you can continue to enhance your legacy on the NFL level where you can build that next team? And yeah, he is 72 years old, so age is definitely a factor. He can't coach forever, and health will eventually will become an issue. We saw Greg Popovich. He suffered a mild stroke a few weeks ago, and he's expected to make a full return. All praise to God. That's always a scary situation, especially at his age. Your health can deteriorate at the moment of a snap. So that's something as well. And that's why I'd also think that will make him lean to the NFL level even more. Because, with a team like UNC, it's a team that hasn't been in the playoffs. Look, again, I'm not a college football aficionado. I don't remember a single time the UNC has ever been in the playoffs. Maybe they have a very, very long time ago, but nothing that I've remembered. This is a team that's sitting right now. They're sitting 13th in the it's a team that it's going to take a little bit of rebuilding, and the recruiting is going to be a huge impact. You're gonna have to be able to recruit the next group of talented players to revamp that. And does Bill Belichick have the time for that at this point in his life? Is that what he's looking to do? I don't understand it. I don't really understand it. I think Bill Belichick, he can take a team like the Chicago Bears to the next level. Look, I want to throw the Dallas Cowboys in there, but I just believe Cowboys are almost cursed. Like, they're never going to be able to take that next step in the playoffs. It's just not going to happen. Not in this century. I'm sorry. They had the 90s. The 90s was for them. But I don't believe anybody. What? But a team like Chicago, maybe I'd even like the Jets as an opportunity for him. I feel like he could do some good things, Bill Belichick, in the NFL. I still believe he's a brilliant head coach. Absolutely. But short break here coming up. When we come back, we will discuss the Kansas City Chiefs.
Looking for your daily fix of sports talk without having to pay for it? GSMC Sports Network is available on YouTube. Just search GSMC Sports Network. Get your fix of daily sports talk shows on YouTube, absolutely free. NFL, college football, NBA, MLB, MMA, UFC, fantasy football, and so much more. GSMC Sports Network has shows running all day long, with new sports shows starting every 2 hours. Just like on your favorite cable sports channel, except GSMC Sports Network is absolutely free. Just search GSMC Sports Network on YouTube to catch one of your new favorite shows, like the GSMC College Football Podcast, Chip Shot Football Podcast, Hoops and Heels Women's Sports Podcast, GSMC Basketball Podcast, and so many more. Check it out for yourself. GSMC Sports Network, now available on YouTube absolutely free. Search GSMC Sports Network on YouTube right now.
Before the break, we discussed Bill Belichick speaking with UNC about open head coach opportunity. We move on to discuss the Chiefs. Now, the Kansas City Chiefs, they are 11-1, best record in the league, best record in the AFC. But you look at the performances of each game in, game out, not the most impressive. One would argue they're getting lucky in these games. One would say they're fortunate to be 11-1. One would say this, one would that. But the truth is, they are 11-1. And yeah, they haven't been impressive on a game-to-game basis. In fact, you can argue they've been underwhelming in a majority of their games this season. And honestly, I'm looking at it. Which game have they played? They played a good game. I'm thinking, I think their opening game was probably the most impressive game of the season. I have to be honest, I thought their opening game was their most impressive game of the season. Against Cincinnati, they won that game on a pass interference on 4th and 17. Atlanta, game could have went either way. Really, we should have went Atlanta's way. The Chargers was a defensive battle, and the Chargers team just couldn't generate enough offensively with the lack of weapons. That Saints game, that was a decent game. That 49ers game, going up against a shorthand 49ers that week, and they were okay. I thought Chiefs were pretty poor in that one too. Like, the Chiefs have been pretty poor in games this season, but they're getting the victories. They're surviving, and Kansas City, they were also really poor last season throughout the regular season. But the difference is their record was much different. I believe in this point, through 12 weeks last season, they were... Actually forgot what they were through 12 weeks last season. they would have probably been 8-4. 8-4. Well, yeah, they were 8-4. They were 8-4 through 12 games last year. Compared to now, 11-1. Look, they have that winning formula, and they're winning these tight games. So why can't you expect them to continue to do this in the playoffs? You know, I want them to see. I want to see them. You know, if this team is not what we think they are, then this Broncos game, this Pittsburgh game, this Chargers game, they'll lose a couple of those games. But if they can maintain this elite, not elite, but if they can continue to win these tight ball games, even up against these good opposition that they're about to face, how could we go into the AFC thinking they're not the team to beat? They have the psychological advantage of literally every team that they're going to go up against in the AFC, besides, Pittsburgh. I think Pittsburgh can match them with experience. They have a quarterback that's done it in the moment. They've had a head coach that's taken the teams on a deep playoff run to match the experience of Andy Reid. They have a quarterback that can push the ball down the field and experience. They got a defense that'll travel. So I think that will give Kansas City issues, right? But Buffalo, you're really telling me this Buffalo Bills team, the Chiefs have a psychological hold over this Buffalo Bills team. Why the Ravens? People bring up the Ravens. What makes you confident that what happened last season won't happen exactly again? What makes you believe that? The only difference this time around is that Baltimore is going to have to go into Kansas City for a playoff game, because the Chiefs are going to get the number 1 seed, or at worst will be number 2. Baltimore have no chance to catch up to. In fact, I think Kansas. It's mathematically, is it possible? It is possible because there's 5 games left and there's a 4-game difference, but basically impossible. You know what I mean? So I don't see the team that will knock out. For me, I'm so confident in the Chiefs that they'll get out of the AFC, that I'm almost willing to say I'll bet them over the. I'm not a betting man. I don't believe in betting. Just my short moral lesson to y'all. Betting is evil, in my opinion. But if I was a betting man, Chiefs. I'd bet Chiefs over the field. 1,000%. 1,000%. In the AFC, I'll choose the Chiefs over the field because what is the difference between these regular season performances this year and last year? The only difference is they're winning games this year. And when the playoffs comes, when the pressure of the playoffs comes, they will turn it on. They'll be alert. And I think there's a positive about being in these close games, game in, game out. When you're facing one of these close games in the playoffs, it's not a gut punch to you. It's not a gut punch to you because you've been used to it game in, game out, and you'll be, and you'll know how to deal with it in the playoffs. I think they're psychologically building themselves Kansas City. And now with DeAndre Hopkins, they have that go-to target in the red zone, someone that now it's going to be really difficult for teams to double-team Travis Kelce in the playoffs. You saw how Kelce took over that Ravens game? Keep in mind, that's without DeAndre Hopkins. Now, I'm talking about last year in the playoffs. And that was without DeAndre Hopkins. Now you have Hopkins out there. They can't double-team Kelce, and if they do, you're going to leave Hopkins one-on-one. And this is a Hopkins player, not the peak of his Houston Texans prime, but you leave him one-on-one, that's still a major issue. So for me, I think the whole media trying to act like, this is it for Kansas City. They're not doing it this year. I just think slow down. I need to see it to believe. This is a classic example of I'll have to see it to believe it. I can't believe that Kansas City will not be in the Super Bowl unless I physically see them, get eliminated. And I have no faith in Buffalo getting it done. I think Josh Allen no matter what y'all want to say about that one performance, that one divisional round game where he did everything like that, Josh Allen is Patrick Mahomes' baby. He is Mahomes' baby. He's Mahomes' baby. Y'all can talk about these regular season wins here and there, but Patrick Mahomes, when it matters in the playoffs, consistently gets the better of Josh Allen. Consistently. Lamar Jackson consistently can't take that next step in the playoffs. He cannot. He's won 2 playoff games in his career. This is a guy that has as many MVPs as playoff games. I don't know if that's a stat, a good stat or not. This is a 27-year-old and he's only won 2 playoff games and he's won 2 MVPs. That's a problem. That's a major problem. And the playoff games that they've lost, he has severely not played at the MVP level. You compare what he did when he lost to the Titans that first year. He was not good enough in that game. The Buffalo Bills that year that they lost in Orchid Park, he was not good enough that year. And then last season against Kansas City, he was not good enough. He was not good enough. I ignore the Chargers rookie season. That's a rookie Lamar. It's difficult to ask him to do it in that stage. But I think it's a problem. I think Kansas City are still a problem. And I'll definitely bet them over the field. No doubt about that in my mind. Short break here coming up. When we come back, we will discuss the Club World Cup draw.
For the best and latest podcasts available anywhere, go to the podcast app on your cell phone and type in GSMC to access free content-rich podcasts on health and wellness, book reviews, sports, entertainment, relationships, social media, movies, technology, finance, and even weird news. Subscribe and download the GSMC Podcast Network's family of shows, available everywhere podcasts are found.
Before the break, we discussed the Chiefs and whether they're still the best team to beat in the AFC. We move on to discuss the Club World Cup. So, the big Club World Cup is coming up, this expanded version of it, controversial tournament. You have one side of it that's completely against this happening, and then you have the other side where, well, there's no side really defending the Club World Cup per se. There's no side really defending the Club World Cup. But, there's a side that, is not, you're either against the Club World Cup or you don't have the opinion, or you don't really have an opinion. I'm one of those where I lean on, I don't have an opinion, or closer to, I think this is good for football. And then I'm extremely the minority in that. But I'm not completely there yet, because I do think fixture buildup is an issue. There is fixture buildup. That's a real thing. You see the players complaining, you see the managers complaining. They're not complaining out of nowhere. That's a serious issue. And I don't want to act like I'm undermining that. Here's my thing though. I think the Club World Cup is a beautiful thing. Number one, this is a tournament that's once every 4 years. So talking about fixture buildup, if this is something that happened every year, yeah, okay. This is just extra games every year and all that. This is something that happens every 4 years, this new version of the Club World Cup. So, there's an importance for that. I mean, that's a factor, It's not something that happens every year. This is an opportunity, in my opinion, and yes, FIFA I'm not here to defend FIFA. FIFA has their hidden motivations. They love their money. And this is a great way to rival the Champions League. And it'll make FIFA a whole lot of money when you're having, when you have Messi, when you have Real Madrid, Chelsea, Manchester City, when you have all these really good teams. It's a great way to make money. Going up against each other, it's a great way to make money. Don't get me wrong there. But at the same time, this is an opportunity to grow the sport because people are going to be watching this game. People are going to be watching this tournament because you have Messi, because you have all these top European teams. And because of that, it's going to lead to people watching Boca Juniors versus Auckland City, or Flamengo versus Leon, or Al Hilal versus Pachuca. Because people are going to be interested in those other games because they're in the same group as Real Madrid. They're in the same group as Chelsea. They're in the same group as Bayern Munich. And it's going to lead to, teams from other countries and other leagues around the world, not in Europe, to get eyes on them that we don't normally get. I believe there's some quality in the worldwide football. Everybody that has quality is not in Europe. Obviously the European teams have clearly the superior teams, right? But there's some good quality all across the world, and it's a good chance for them to be able to, benefit off this too. The globalization of not globalization of sport, but globalization of club football. Because the club football epicenter is Europe, and it's just Europe. Look at it logically. Should it be that congested? Should really 99% of the top talent in the world only be in Europe? Should Europe only be the league that we should be watching unless you live in the country? Like, let's be for real. What is the percentage of Brazil, Serie A, I believe the Brazilian league is the Brazilian Serie A? No, it's what is it called? What is the Brazilian league called? Brasileiro Serie A. I was right. So Brasileiro Serie A. How many percentage of Brasileiro Serie A fans do you think are non-Brazilian? Like maybe like 2%. Maybe 2%. Like 99, an overwhelming majority of Brasileiro Serie A fans are Brazilian. Same with MLS. Same with, the Saudi Arabia. Actually, now Saudi Arabian league is starting to get influx of foreign fans because of Ronaldo and things like that. But let's say same with, the New Zealand league. Auckland City comes from New Zealand, right? This is an opportunity to globalize the sport where other confederations, club football, will be able to be shown at the highest level. And I think that's good for football. And I think it's good. I love World Cup. I love international football. I think you're getting a real international element to this year. Not this, what we get in the Club World Cup, with the, with all the, this previous Club World Cup. That's not a Club World Cup. That's a Confederation Cup, but for clubs. You get one club per confederation. Like, that's not really a Club World Cup. That's not that exciting. That's stimulating. But when you get a lot of top European teams mixed with some of the top teams from around the world, look, you're looking at this group. I'll watch the games, I'm not a fan of Inter Miami being in here because they're literally only there because Messi. I mean, they're literally only there because of Messi. It's so fishy how they even qualified for the Champions League because they're the representative of the host nation. Why are they the representative of the host nation? Why are they the representative? The MLS Cup Finals tomorrow between Galaxy and the Red Bulls, isn't logically the winner of that supposed to be in there? That's logically, but we know they want to have Messi there, FIFA, and they want to have Messi there. Just make it simple. But yeah, Palmeiras, Porto, Al Ahly, Inter Miami. Al Ali from Egypt, by the way. Yeah, I mean, we get a mix there. We get a Brazilian league. We get Porto, Al Ali, Inter Miami. Obviously, Porto will be the clear favorites in that one. I think Al Ali is one of the top Egyptian teams. Can they compete with Palmeiras? I'll be interested to see that. Inter Miami, they're clearly the worst team in that group, right? But isn't that exciting to see teams from other confederations? In Group B, you have two top European teams, PSG, Atletico Madrid, and then you have Botafogo and Seattle Sounders. How can the Sounders compete with some of these top teams? Can Botafogo knock out any of PSG, Atletico Madrid? That's exciting, For me, at least for me. Group C, you got Bayern Munich, Auckland City, Boca Juniors, Benfica. I think that's Boca Juniors, Benfica. Boca Juniors play some really good football. They don't have that atmosphere that you have in Buenos Aires right here, because this is in America. It's going to be held across 12 stadiums in 11 different cities. The final will be at MetLife Stadium in New Jersey. Group D, Flamengo, AS Tunis, Chelsea and Lyon. It was great to see Chelsea playing top-level football yet again. We haven't played Europe in a really long time, and this is a little bit of a resemblance to that. We're going to have an opportunity in knockout stages to play against some really, really good teams. So I'm really excited for that. Group E has River Plate, Urawa, Monterrey, Internazionale. Think about it too. What if in this Club World Cup we get a Boca Juniors River Plate matchup in the knockout stages? I wish they were in back-to-back groups, because that would have been a dream, but they're not. But just imagine things like that. Group F, Fluminense, Borussia Dortmund, Ulsan, and Mamelodi Sundowns. I believe that's a team from South Africa. Yeah, it is a team from South Africa. Pretoria, South Africa. And then you have Manchester City, Wydad, Al Ain, Juventus, And then the final group is Real Madrid, Al Hilal, Pachuca, Salzburg. I'll be objective. Some of these games are going to be, food for some of these European teams, like, Real Madrid going up against Pachuca. I think Al Hilal will give Real Madrid some issues because, that Al Hilal team has some quality, depending on, with Neymar, if he helps. But this is an Al Hilal that has, Yasser Al-Sharaini, Saudi Arabia's right back. They have a backline with Koulibaly. They have Al-Dawsri, the star player also for Saudi Arabia. They have Malcolm, Renan Lodi, Alexander Mitrovic, João Cancelo, Milinkovic-Savic. Al Hilal got some brilliant quality, and I haven't even mentioned Neymar, who hasn't even played 3 games with them, I believe. Al Hilal, they have some quality, and this is a chance too. Also, we get to see some of the players that we don't really see at the top levels play at a top level yet again. And we don't see them much play for their clubs, like Al Hilal. We get to see a lot of players, João Cancelo, players we haven't seen at the club level for a while now. I talked about Messi for Inter Miami. It's unfortunate that Al Nassr wasn't able to qualify for this, or we would have had a chance to see Ronaldo at that stage as well. Imagine Ronaldo going up against Real Madrid instead of Al Hilal. Things like that. It would have been fabulous to watch. But again, I just think the Club World Cup needs to be, and everything is always going to be heavily scrutinized at the beginning, right? Because it's new and people don't like accepting new things and changes and all that. But I'm giving it an open chance. I really am. Because I'm low-key excited for it. I am excited for it. And the only thing that you could argue that I would be extremely critical over is Inter Miami. It makes no sense why they're in it. Yes, you want Messi, and I wish FIFA would just come out and say we want Messi in the tournament. Just be 100% objective, because logically they have no business being here. They're the representative of the host nation. Why? Why are they the representative? I mean, I'm asking. I know why. Because Messi. Because of Messi. 1,000% is only because of Messi. That's it. You know, we all know that. But you're thinking about logically. Let's just try to think at a firmly logically point of view. Why isn't Miami there? They were knocked out in the opening round of the MLS playoffs. There's 2 teams competing in the MLS playoffs right now that don't have a position right now. Because Seattle, they got it because of a Champions League, through one of the Champions League victories. You know, why can't we, you know, and if not that, then, you know, if you don't choose the MLS Cup winner from this season, then why not just choose the last MLS team that at least made it to the Champions League final? And that would have been, I believe, LAFC. I think it's LAFC. I may be wrong. This makes no sense to me. But overall, I'm excited for the Club World Cup. And I think the criticism has been a little bit too much. Short break here coming up. When we come back, we will discuss who is going to win the NFC South. Before the break, we discussed the Club World Cup draw. We move on to discuss the NFC South. So the NFC South is coming down to the wire. We have both teams tied at 6-6. 2 teams tied at 6-6. And then you have the rest of the teams. They're well behind. The Saints are 4-8, and the Panthers are 3-9. In my opinion, I think it's a 2-team race between the Atlanta Falcons and Tampa Bay. I have to say, a few weeks ago, when Buccaneers suffered a Monday night loss to Baltimore, and it was a critical loss. They lost Chris Godwin for the year, and then Mike Evans, which we thought it could have been for a pretty long time. It ended up only being for a few weeks. I was thinking, man, that was a great, they had an opportunity to really, I thought the Buccaneers had a great opportunity to be a really, really good team this season, and I felt like that game just ruined it for them. And then they went on to lose to Atlanta, which was their second loss to Atlanta of the season, which gave Atlanta the tiebreaker over Tampa Bay. I'm thinking, man, that's wraps for Tampa Bay. And then they went on to lose. They went on to lose to the Chiefs and then the Niners, and they went on to lose to the Chiefs and Niners and dropped to 4-6. And you're thinking, yeah, that's wraps, But Atlanta kept losing games, and because of that, with wins over the Giants and Panthers, suddenly it was a tie series. 6-6 between both teams, and now the only difference between the two is the tiebreaker. So basically, all Buccaneers have to do is better Atlanta's record for these last stretch of games, and Tampa Bay will be going into the playoffs and hosting a playoff game, despite the injuries that they suffered, despite Atlanta having the tiebreaker. But let's be for real, Tampa Bay is a better football team than Atlanta. The reason why this division title craze is rose is because it's close. It's because of the injuries. Tampa Bay is a better team. Tampa Bay has the better quarterback, the better football playing quarterback right now, playing better football. You know, Tampa Bay has the experience. I think Tampa Bay, what they've done is they have a psychological hold on this division now. This is a Tampa Bay Buccaneers team that's won the division title the last 4 seasons? 4 seasons, I believe. Yeah, 4 seasons. Yeah, they've won in the last 4 seasons. This is 5 years in a row if they accomplish this, if they can get it this year. So they have the pedigree, they have the personnel, and I think they have an easy stretch of games with the Raiders. You know, they have a difficult one against the Chargers, and then they close out their last 3 games against Panthers, against the Cowboys, Panthers, Buccaneers. They could easily go 4-1, and I think that'll be enough to get them through. I think the Falcons have some games that they could lose. They take on Minnesota. You know, they take on Commanders, the Raiders, and then I really don't think they're, you know, locks to beat the Raiders, to go 3-0 against the Raiders, Giants, and Carolina. But I think it will come down to the wire. I absolutely believe it will come down to the wire. And I'm very, very fascinated to watch this. I think Tampa Bay is more deadly in the playoffs. If they're the ones that get the home playoff, I think Atlanta will be a comfortable game for any wild card team going into Atlanta. But in your Tampa Bay, you know, you're could be, let's say, the 3rd or 4th seed. You know, I don't think the Washington Commanders want to go into Tampa Bay. I don't think the Washington Commanders want to go into Tampa Bay. I don't believe Minnesota would want to go to Tampa Bay either, or Green Bay. You know, I think those teams will struggle. Keep in mind, Tampa Bay, earlier on this season, when they were healthy, the Detroit Lions and Philadelphia Eagles have a combined 3 losses this season. 2 of them were against Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay went into Detroit and beat them. Their only loss. Tampa Bay completely mollywopped Philadelphia Eagles earlier this season before Eagles went on their run. You know, Tampa Bay has the personnel, has the quality, has the ability. I think Baker Mayfield is a dog. I think he's a dog. I think he's played elite football this season. And what he's done this season, despite being short-handed and he's faced so much adversity. And he's faced so much adversity in his career. And he continues to rise and to thrive. And last season, what he did in the playoffs as well, winning that playoff game. And then I thought, man, he was right there. I thought he played a really, really good playoff game against Detroit. And they were there at Detroit. They had that opportunity on the final drive to equalize it. It ends up being Baker threw an interception on that drive, trying to force it down the middle. And then, and that's a Detroit team that really almost went to the Super Bowl that year. You know, the fits that they gave the 49ers in that NFC Championship. And Tampa Bay were able to go into Detroit and make it a difficult game for them. So I think Tampa Bay has a potential to do something in the playoffs. I do, because I believe in Baker Mayfield. I believe the moment won't be too big for him in the playoffs. I don't believe the moment will be too big for him. I don't think he'll be rattled or caged. I think he has the guts to stick in the pocket, to make the plays when he needs to. I think he's a warrior, a dog, any sort of adjective I can describe Warriors-like adjective, give it to Baker Mayfield. And I think he has talent too. He was a number 1 overall pick for a reason. I don't think there's many throws on a football field that he can't make. And the turnovers have been getting better steadily in his career as well. Don't sleep on Tampa Bay. Don't sleep on Tampa Bay. They're getting healthier. They play good complementary football. They have the experience. And yeah, for me, they are the favorites in the NFC South. But the big thing is they have a chance to do something if they get into the playoffs. I don't believe Atlanta has that. I believe Atlanta will be first round food for whatever team goes up against them. I just think Kirk Cousins has had an awfully inconsistent season, and yeah, he's just not been great. Honestly, he hasn't been great at all, and it's funny to me because nobody's really talking about it. Recently I heard a little bit of talk of people saying, could Penix Jr. replace Kirk Cousins? Look, that's not happening this late into the season. Like, no. With Atlanta and the fact that they're battling for a playoff spot, the Falcons are not going to put Penix in that position. No way. But I think we're going to see Penix as the Falcons quarterback way sooner than later. Because Kirk Cousins, he's not playing at elite level this season. And yeah, coming off a torn Achilles was going to be tough. But, this is a guy, he's 17 touchdowns, 13 interceptions. He had 4 interceptions last game. In his last 3 games, he has 0 touchdowns, 6 interceptions. 0 touchdowns, 6 interceptions in his last 3 games. 0 touchdowns, 6 interceptions. That is ridiculous. He had a 40% quarterback rating last week against the Chargers. The game before that, 68.9. Yeah, that's a problem. There's a problem for Atlanta. Thank you guys for tuning into the GSMC Dead Ball Sports Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. Your support means a lot to us, so please remember to subscribe to the show and leave a positive review. It really does make a difference. We also invite you to follow us on Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, Instagram for more content and updates. So thank you once again and have a wonderful, wonderful day.
Let's go. I wake up to a little bit of drool on my pillow, feel like it's gonna be a bad day. Yeah, I'm tired of shit and the coffee